They ask me how I ended up testifying at a criminal trial, sitting next to a man I barely knew 3 months ago, holding his hand while federal prosecutors tore apart everything we'd built together. Let me take you back to where it all started. 82 days earlier, when I thought being broke was the worst thing that could happen to me. I was wrong. My name is Nina Cole, and I was 26 years old when my life fell apart in the lobby of Monroe Tech's headquarters in downtown Los Angeles. I'd been Evan Monroe's executive assistant for 3 years. 3 years of 80-hour weeks, impossible deadlines, and watching my boss build a tech empire from the 40th floor while I survived on ramen and hope. But I was good at my job. Damn good. And Evan Monroe, cold, brilliant, untouchable Evan Monroe, trusted me with everything. Everything except the truth. The day it all changed started like any other Tuesday. I was at my desk at 6 in the morning, already 3 coffees deep, when my phone rang. Unknown number. I should have let it go to voicemail. Nina Cole? The voice was familiar in a way that made my stomach drop. Who is this? It's your father, sweetheart. Long time no talk. Richard Hart, the man who'd abandoned me and my sister Vanessa when I was 12 years old, disappeared without a trace, without child support, without a backward glance. How did you get this number? My hands were shaking. I'm a private investigator now, Nina. Finding people is what I do. And guess what I found? Ice ran down my spine. I don't know what you're talking about. Those reference letters you used to get your job at Monroe Tech, the ones from professors you never actually had, the credentials you enhanced on your resume. He paused, letting it sink in. I have copies of everything, the real documents, the fake ones, side by side. Very interesting reading. The coffee in my stomach turned to acid. When I was 23, desperate for a break, I'd forged 2 reference letters. Just 2. It was the only way to get past the screening process. Everyone did it, right? It was harmless. Except it wasn't harmless. It was fraud. Document fraud. A felony. What do you want? My voice barely worked. Meet me at Olvera Street, noon. And Nina? Come alone, or I send everything to the LAPD and your boss. Wonder how Evan Monroe would feel knowing his trusted assistant is a criminal. The line went dead. I don't remember the next 6 hours. I went through the motions, answered emails, managed Evan's calendar, prepped documents for his board meeting, but my brain was screaming the entire time. 3 to 5 years in prison. That's what document fraud carried. I'd looked it up once, in a moment of paranoid insomnia 2 years ago, then convinced myself I was being ridiculous. No one would ever find out. Richard had found out. At 11:30, I told Evan I had a dentist appointment and took an early lunch. He barely looked up from his laptop, just waved me away with one elegant hand. Evan Monroe didn't do small talk, didn't do emotions, didn't do anything except work, win, and maintain that ice-cold exterior that made grown men nervous in board meetings. I'd seen him destroy competitors with a single email. I'd watched him fire executives without blinking, and I'd spent 3 years secretly, stupidly, impossibly attracted to a man who treated me like a very efficient piece of office equipment. Cool story, Nina. Really great timing to think about your pointless crush while your life implodes. Olvera Street was crowded with tourists and street vendors. I found Richard sitting at an outdoor cafe, looking exactly like I remembered. Older, harder, with eyes that calculated the value of everything they saw. Nina, you grew up pretty. He smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. What do you want? He slid a folder across the table. Inside were copies of my forged references, my real transcripts, everything that proved I'd lied my way into Monroe Tech. Here's the situation, Richard said, leaning back in his chair. I work for some people now, people who are very interested in Evan Monroe. They want information about his business dealings, his private files, his vulnerabilities. You want me to spy on my boss. You want me to do what you're told. Or you go to prison, and your baby sister Vanessa, she's still at UCLA, right? 19 years old, bright future ahead of her, ends up with a criminal for a sister, probably drops out. Such a shame. The threat was clear. Cooperate or destroy both our lives. I can't, I whispered. I won't betray Evan. He's what? Your friend? Richard laughed. Sweetheart, billionaire CEOs don't have friends. They have assets. And the moment you stop being useful, he'll throw you away like garbage, just like I did. The casual cruelty of it made me want to throw up. I need time. You have 48 hours. Then I start making calls. He stood up, dropped a business card on the table. Don't try to run, Nina. I will find you, and when I do, it'll be so much worse. He disappeared into the crowd. I sat there for 20 minutes, staring at that folder, my entire future crumbling around me. Then I went back to work, because what else was I supposed to do? That evening, Evan called me into his office at 7. The sun was setting over Los Angeles, turning the downtown skyline into a postcard gold and shadow. His office was all glass and steel, minimalist and cold, just like him. "Close the door," he said, without looking up. I did. My heart was pounding so hard I was sure he could hear it. "Nina, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me." Oh God, he knows. Richard already told him. This is it. I'm going to prison. Okay, I managed. Evan finally looked at me, really looked at me. His eyes were dark gray, intelligent, and completely unreadable. At 34, he was stupidly handsome in that cold, untouchable way. Sharp jawline, dark hair always perfectly styled, expensive suits that fit like they were painted on. He looked like he'd been carved from marble by someone who'd never heard of human warmth. "How would you feel about getting married?" I blinked. "I'm sorry? What?" "To me. How would you feel about marrying me?" The room tilted sideways. Are you having a stroke? Should I call 911? "I'm completely serious." He stood up, walking to the window with his hands in his pockets. "Nina, I need a wife for business reasons, legal reasons, boring inheritance clause reasons that I won't bore you with. The marriage would be purely transactional, a contract. You'd be well compensated, of course." How well compensated? The question came out before I could stop it. $500,000, paid over the course of 1 year. At the end of that year, we divorce quietly, you walk away wealthy, and we both get what we need. $500,000, enough to pay off my student loans, set up Vanessa for life, and make Richard's blackmail completely pointless. "Why me?" I asked. "Because I trust you, because you've worked for me for 3 years and never once asked for anything you didn't earn. Because you're intelligent, discreet, and frankly, I don't want to marry a stranger." He turned to face me. "This would be a business arrangement between colleagues, nothing more." Nothing more. Right. Just marry my emotionally unavailable boss who I'd been half in love with for 3 years. Simple. "I need to think about it." "You have 24 hours. He checked his watch. "I need an answer by tomorrow night. If you say yes, we'll handle the paperwork immediately. If you say no, we never speak of this again and nothing changes between us professionally." I nodded and fled his office before I did something stupid like cry or laugh hysterically. Real quick, if this story has you hooked, just tap that subscribe button. Part 2 drops tomorrow, and trust me, you don't want to miss what happens next. Okay, back to Nina. That night, I sat in my tiny Echo Park apartment and tried to think rationally. Option 1, refuse Evan's proposal. Let Richard destroy my life, go to prison, ruin Vanessa's future. Option 2, marry Evan Monroe. Get $500,000, use the money to disappear before Richard could use me as a spy. Option 3, tell Evan the truth about Richard's blackmail and hope he'd help me instead of firing me immediately. I spent 6 hours going in circles before my phone rang at 2 in the morning. Unknown number. Hello? Nina. Not Richard's voice. Deeper, rougher, dangerous. My name is Kelvin. I'm Richard Hart's employer. He tells me you're being difficult about our arrangement. I don't know what you're talking about. Let me make this simple. You have a sister, Vanessa Cole, 19, lives in the dorms at UCLA, walks home from the library every night at 9:30. Very predictable schedule. My blood went cold. If you touch her... We won't touch her as long as you cooperate. Richard needs information on Evan Monroe, and you're going to get it for him. Or Vanessa has a very unfortunate accident. Are we clear? Yes, the word came out broken. Good girl. Richard will be in touch. The line went dead. I sat on my bathroom floor and cried until the sun came up. By the time I got to work the next morning, I'd made my decision. I found Evan in his office at 8, already deep in spreadsheets and coffee. I'll marry you, I said. He looked up, something flickering in those gray eyes. Relief? Satisfaction? I couldn't tell. Excellent. My attorney will draw up the contract, we'll sign this afternoon, and have a courthouse ceremony on Friday. Friday? That's 3 days away. The inheritance clause has a deadline. I need to be married by my 35th birthday, which is in 82 days. We're cutting it close as it is. 82 days, the exact same timeline Richard had given me before going to the police. Coincidence or something darker? Okay, I said. Friday. Nina. He stood up, walking around his desk. For the first time in 3 years, he touched me, just his hand on my shoulder, brief and formal. I know this is unorthodox, but I promise I'll make this as painless as possible. You'll have your own space, your own life. This is just paperwork. Right. If only I'd known how badly I was about to be lied to. Friday came fast, too fast. We got married at the downtown courthouse with 2 witnesses, Evan's attorney, William Foster, and his housekeeper, Teresa, a kind older woman who'd worked for him for years. I wore a simple cream dress I'd bought at Target. Evan wore one of his $1,000 suits. The ceremony took 7 minutes. When the judge said, "You may kiss the bride," Evan hesitated. Then he leaned in and brushed his lips against mine so briefly I might have imagined it. It felt like ice and electricity at the same time. "Congratulations, Mrs. Monroe," he whispered. Mrs. Monroe. God, what had I done? We signed the papers. William handed me a check for the first installment, $100,000. I stared at it like it might bite me. "The rest will be paid in quarterly installments," William explained, "provided the marriage remains intact for the full year." Trapped. I was trapped for a full year with a man I barely knew. "Shall we go home?" Evan asked. Home. His penthouse in downtown LA. I'd been there once, dropping off documents. It was as cold and impersonal as his office, all glass and steel and expensive art. But it was better than my apartment, safer than anywhere Richard could find me. Yes, let's go home. The penthouse was massive. 35th floor, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, minimalist furniture that probably cost more than my car. "This is your room," Evan said, opening a door to a bedroom that was bigger than my entire apartment. "I'm down the hall. You'll have complete privacy. Teresa comes in twice a week for cleaning and cooking, but otherwise you'll have the space to yourself most of the time." "Where will you be?" "Working. I'm rarely home before midnight." He loosened his tie, and I caught a glimpse of something under his collar. A scar? "The kitchen is fully stocked. Help yourself to anything. If you need something, text me." "Evan, I know this is strange, but we'll make it work. Just try to relax. You're safe here." Safe. If only he knew how unsafe everything really was. He left me alone in that massive bedroom, and I sat on the edge of the designer bed and finally let myself process what I'd done. I'd married my boss, married him to escape blackmail from my deadbeat father and threats from a crime boss whose name I didn't even know 2 days ago. Married him while he had his own secret reasons for needing a wife, and I was lying to him every second of every day. 2 weeks into the marriage, Richard called again. "Congratulations on the wedding, sweetheart. Very romantic. Now, here's what you're going to do." He wanted financial records, client lists, proprietary information that would send Evan's competitors into a feeding frenzy. I stalled, made excuses, pretended the files were encrypted and I couldn't access them. But Kelvin called again, sent a photo of Vanessa leaving her dorm, a reminder that they were watching, waiting. I started stealing documents, tiny things at first, nothing that would be missed. I told myself I was protecting my sister, doing what I had to do to survive. But every night I looked at Evan across the dinner table because we'd started having dinner together, this weird domestic routine neither of us acknowledged, and the guilt ate me alive. "You've been quiet lately," he said one evening, 3 weeks into the marriage. "Everything okay?" "Fine, just adjusting." "Nina," he set down his fork, "I know this arrangement isn't ideal, but you can talk to me. If something's wrong—" "Nothing's wrong," I lied. He studied me with those unreadable gray eyes, and I swore he could see right through me. "All right," he finally said, "but the offer stands." That night, I lay in my massive bed in my massive room and wondered how much longer I could keep this up. The answer came faster than I expected. 4 weeks into the marriage, I walked into Evan's home office to deliver some documents and found him at his desk with his shirt off. "Sorry, I shouldn't have knocked." I started to back out, but then I saw them. Scars. Vicious, brutal scars across his back and shoulder, the kind you get from violence, from someone trying to kill you. Evan grabbed his shirt, his face going completely white. "Nina, what happened to you?" I whispered. He stood there, half-dressed, looking more vulnerable than I'd ever seen him. For the first time since I'd met him, Evan Monroe looked human, breakable. "It's a long story," he said quietly. "I have time." He pulled his shirt back on, but the damage was done. I'd seen the scars, seen the proof that my cold, untouchable boss had been hurt, badly. "Someone tried to kill me," he finally said, 8 years ago. They almost succeeded." "Who?" "That's the complicated part." He sat down, running his hands through his hair. "Nina, there's something you need to know about me, about why I really needed to get married, and it's going to change everything." My phone buzzed. A text from Richard. "Time's up. Bring me those financial records by Monday or Vanessa pays." I looked at Evan, at this man I'd married under false pretenses, this man who had his own terrible secrets, this man who'd been nearly murdered and was about to tell me why. "Okay, tell me everything." He took a breath. "My name isn't Evan Monroe." The room tilted. "My real name is Lucas Reed, and 8 years ago, I faked my own death to escape my family because my brother tried to kill me, and if anyone finds out I'm still alive," he looked at me with those devastating gray eyes, "they'll finish the job." I stood there, frozen, as my entire world shattered and rebuilt itself into something I didn't recognize. The man I'd married didn't exist, and I was lying to a ghost. "You made it all the way to the end of part 1. That means you care about Nina. You want to know what Evan or Lucas or whoever he really is hiding. You need to know if she survives this. But if you don't hit that subscribe button right now, you might never see part 2. The algorithm won't show it to you, and you'll never know what those scars really mean. You'll never know if Nina escapes Richard and Kelvin. You'll never know the truth about Lucas Reed. You'll never know what happens when his brother finds out he's alive. Part 2 drops tomorrow, same time, and I promise you, the truth about his identity, about his family, about why someone tried to murder him, it will shatter everything you think you know. So do me a favor, do yourself a favor, hit subscribe, turn on notifications, because this story, it gets so much darker before it gets better. Drop a comment right now. Do you think Nina should trust him? Just type trust or run. I read every single comment, every single one. Part 2 tomorrow. Don't miss it. See you then.